Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. My channel is called Discerning What is True. I'm sharing this information today live, that is on YouTube and also on Facebook. That is my own Facebook channel, simply under my name, Brant Hunt. I'm also, it's being delayed by a day or two on Odyssey. The name of the chapter is Chapter 10, called The Two Paths of Liberation, from the book called Sacred Science by Rene Schwaller. Today, this is a book that I've been working my way through, and I wanted to share this with everyone today. So let's get into the book, and I hope you enjoy, as this is a great piece of work by a man and his wife who spent 15 years in Egypt uh, exploring the temple at Luxor. That's Luzor. Begin to Chapter 9, Two Paths of Liberation. The scientific orientation of present-day thinking undermines churches and inspires faith, all to the benefits of a rational science. Human problems are neglected and give way to the Moloch machine, Molock machine, which already compels individuals to submit their lives to its demands. The machine imposes the limits of its possibilities after having falsely promised to place itself at the service of man. But a time will come when human problems will again be raised, as they cannot forever be avoided. These fluctuations in humanity, that is psychological history, are cynical. That is, they just continue to repeat like a circle. But the present crisis is particularly severe because the cult of intellectuality is in the process of reversing all traditions. That is obscuring and negating all the symbols of the metaphysics transmitted through theologies and mopes and mores. Dialectics and reasons are replacing the vital quest for the neters, the principle of nature, to which the sages of all times have given meaningful names. The principle of conservation of energy in thermodynamics, for example, is rationally more satisfying than the principle of the universe cycle of becoming and return. The first leads to mechanics, the second poses the problem of abstract cause. Nevertheless, the fact remains that seasons and astronomical cycles influence the Earth's vital phenomenon. But it's impossible to understand what mechanism is involved. That is, rationalism, on the other hand, would like to detect a mechanical reason in everything. So what he's saying here simply is that the stars, the astrology, has an effect upon this planet in a lot of ways. That's what he says simply is here. So, like he says, there remains that the seasons and astronomical cycles for Earth vital phenomenon. But there's a reason why this happens. Yet, when the particular ceases to identify with the whole, humanity gives up hope of finding answers. When the time comes that reason despairs, it will no longer be possible to identify with the all. Animator of transitional form, the elements which allow this identification to occur will have been forgotten. The elevated spheres of abstract mathematics thought paradoxically end up in technique, and technique creates fragmentation through specialization, a dispersion into the inestimable jungle of possibilities without any guiding synthesis. The danger of such a mental orientation does not appear to those who tread these multiple scattered paths because they necessarily believe they are on the right track. Each builder of the Tower of Babel believes himself capable of ending up at the summit, which plunged into the heavens. But the elements of his masonry never dovetails that of the other builders. And yet the human aspect of our science is seductive. A kind of international understanding is created among scientists, a scientific liberation among researchers. The rigor of study creates what is nowadays the most honest, most righteous of human categories, compared, for example, with that of politicians. We are not speaking here of the struggle of jealousies, the competition arising in applied science with the multiplication of its inventions, but left to our mentality isn't pure science. It's self-destined eventually to lapse into technique. the the impure can become pure through the process of elimination, but error can never be transformed into truth. A radical change is absolutely essential. Through the natural law of reaction, our thoughts orientation will itself create the instrument of its reversal. After the disappearance of the builders of Babel, the great questions will once again be raised. What is man? Where does he come from? Where is he going? What is he that animates him? Has he a soul? What becomes of it after the body dies? Is there such a thing as good and evil, which affects eventual survival? And what is the nature of this survival? But is it any moral capable, sorry, but is it any mortal capable of answering these questions other than by philosophical speculation or with a simple affirmation granted as a article of faith? The Vedas texts, that is, the Buddhist doctrine, the enigmatic Jewish Bible, the Christianity based on the Gospels, are they anything other than affirmations without proof? As far as today's rationalist mentality is connected, the formulation of these questions lacks precision, inspired as they are by an unconscious opposition, rational physical man, as opposed to some abstract state. One believes in the tangible body and doubts the possibility of a different state. One says that man has a soul, which is false. It is the soul that has man. From the most primitive cell to man, being emanates the form. The latter is but the totality, the totality of possible, passable and variable elements, each one of which is an open door for consciousness, the manifestation of the qualities of being. There is a truth which is everywhere confirmed. When the dualization of of soul singular being has given existence to being, this existence can no longer retrogress. It might undergo the entire genesis. This genesis may be desired towards a preconceived aim. For example, Jesus Christ, the finite anthropos anthropocosmos, or it may be indirect, but it may also be arrested or blocked, kept in abeyance for a new cosmic cycle. The present human being is the vital end term of a long lineage beginning with the first living cell, seed synthesis of prefigured man. Therefore, bodily man is transitional, a form emanated by being which has its fixation to the corporate essence, a indestructible salt. These facts can only be affirmed in the light of a revealed science which can actually demonstrate them. Without this science, there remains but hypothesis or opinions. It was proclaimed as such by the Greek automatists, who, unlike Pythagoras, were ignorant of the teachings of the temple. By virtue of its origin, being passing into bodily form has three aspects. The first is the first is existence, namely its indestructible corporate point, which as a end of Genesis demands to be brought to its resurrection within the oneness of its origin. This is precisely what the pharaonic myth expressed by the qualifying Osiris, principles of the cycle of deaths and rebirths, as Osiris-on-Nefer accomplished existence. A further aspect is its emanating effect, which is the soul of all forms and of their own experiences that make for the successive unveiling of consciousness. The third aspect is being, that is essence of origin. Okay, the third aspect is being, essence of origin, the spirit of oneness, which solicits returns into the unity, and so to speak, forces or compels this genesis. It is this existence aspect of being that imposes a surviving and continuality in a new form after destruction of the present form. The end of Genesis, resurrection in its oneness, can come about only through the acquisition in the body of all the life experiences. This can happen all at once in the course of the direct path, be it Oranian or Christus, or else demands numerous incarnations on the Osiris indirect path. Such is the reason for this two paths. It is the complexity of all the phases and avatars of being which the myth describes. Here, the symbolization is indispensable because of the physical, mental, and spiritual universality of the various aspects of Genesis, as well as for evoking the intuition capable of leading to a sacred science no logic can reveal. Indeed, a grace of inspiration is involved in this moment. The actual state of being finds itself in perfect accord and resonance, exactly concordant with an instance of cosmic harmony. What is meant by God-given grace should be understood along these lines and not as a dear God who busies himself with us personally. The harmony equilibrium, this universe is always ready to respond to the harmonic call of beings incarnate, whatever in actual form, from mineral to man, his psychological consciousness awakens by the faculty of negation. Man has the power of contributing to the realization of this propitious moment. The possibility arises here as a summons to the nature, Egypt's constant prayer, whose meaning we have attempted to demonstrate elsewhere. It can be objected that these are the themes of common religious searchings, although differently expressed, certainly, but it is worthwhile here to clarify the reasons for such statements and to show the supporting points of these assertions. Just as there is a neutron at the heart of the energetic atoms which preoccupies today's science, so in every form of nature there is a salt. That's right. That is a red neutron. Nothing can destroy, and which fixes the character of each incarnation, that is, of each changing form. The sequence which makes us speak of evolution exists only owing to this fixed point. It is a successive of living forms extending from amoeba to man without any visible transition between genes and species. This evolutionary granulation of being is the tangible appearance of a continuous genesis of energy. It takes its image from assertions made by Hermetic texts, according to which metals, each one a typical individual or evolutionary phases, arrested in a genesis toe towards what I call silver or gold. The initial metallic state, had it remained in its matrix, could have become silver or gold. A famous text says that the direct path has 2 roads and that the indirect path has 5. In certain tombs of the 11th dynasty, the deceased is depicted as entering the domain of Sarkarius, where he is offered 2 paths, both capable of conducting him into the abode of the blessed, one by the dry path of earth, the other by the humid path of water. But there is no passing from one to the other because a fiery sea stretches between them. The earth road leads to the land of Rositau. I'll just spell it to you, Rosetau, and it is guarded by a flaming gate. The watery road leads to the lake of Rositau and is guarded by a ram-headed crocodile armed with a knife. Many are the ways for realizing one sole singular thing. Certainly, man's aim is uniquely one to go beyond mortal man in order to enter into cosmic man, man of the 4 cardinal directions, so as to resuffocate what is untouchable for women. The path of reincarnations is the Osiris or karmic path in the sense that every cause provokes its consequences of effect. For the human being, the reasons for the necessity of reincarnations are voluntary acts contrary to his purification or liberation. Therefore, he must exhaust the consequences of these acts for which he was responsible. According to the text, the deceased must appear before the tribunal of Osiris and his 42 assessors. For example, King Mer-Rikari, beloved of the Ka of Ra, teaches his son the importance of actions in this life because one day he will be judged, and says he, in speaking of his judges, quote, "You know that they are not merciful the day when they judge the miserable one. Do not count on the passage of the years. They consider a lifetime as but an hour. After death, man remains in existence and his acts accumulate beside him. Life in the other world is eternal, but he who arrives without sin before the judge of the dead, he will be there as a neter, and he will walk freely as do the masters of eternity. Here is the prayer uttered by all those who consider themselves to be pure on the day of the great judgment. Homage to you, all neters. I know you, and I know your names. Cast me not down before your sword of justice. Bring not my wickedness into the presence of the God whom you follow. I pray you, declare me right and true before the great God of all. For I have done that which is just in Egypt. I have not outraged the neters and the reigning king, and nothing for which to reproach me. Homage to you, O neter, O neters, who live in the hall of the two mats, and who have no evil in your bodies, and who feed upon truth in the presence of Horus, who lives in his son. Deliver you me from Babi, Baabi, who feeds on the entrails of the mighty ones on the day of the great setting of accounts. Behold, I have come unto you without sin, without fault. I live in truth, and I feed upon the truth of my heart. That which men have bitten, I have done, and the needers are satisfied therewith. I have pacified the God, for I have done his will. I have given bread unto the hungry, and water unto the thirsty, clothing unto the naked, and a boat unto the shipwrecked. I have made holy offerings unto the neters, and I have made funeral gifts to the great departed ones. Oh, then deliver me and protect me. Accuse me not before the great God. I am pure of mouth, and I'm pure of hands. May those who see me say, Come in peace, come in peace. At another moment, the deceased addresses his heart. Quote, Heart of my mother, heart of my birth, heart of my life upon earth, rise not in witness against me. Be not my adversary in the presence of the divine powers. Weigh not against me. Let it not be said, Look at what he has done, or of a truth he has done it. Make not complaints against me in the presence of the great leader of the West, that is Osiris. This is the magnificent image of subconscious remorse contradicting ultimate words, you see. I'm going to show you a picture here. Get the book here. I had it right here a second ago. So this is the piece here. So this is the weighing of the soul, what I just shared. And on the left, the deceased between the two mats. On one of the pans of the scale, his heart. On the other, the soul. On the right, in front of Osiris, master of the West, an animal hide rolled up on a post, and the four sons of Horus standing on the flower of a full-blown lotus. Osiris signifies renewal in general, renewal of nature as well as of the human individual. And this is why Osiris, in the presence of the deceased king, is often designated as being the Ka of the latter, or it is through renewals that the Ka is presented with the means of spiritualization. Accordingly, the deceased sovereign is also called a Osiris, since whatever can die is still condemned to renewal through a final death. However, the being can be summoned to more subtle cycles, and then symbolically references will be made to the passage of the king into celestial constellations, I should say. The king is always conceived as king of divine essence, the firmament of perfection, the firmament of symbolized by the Heq, his scepter in the form of a hook, which brings to mind the crozier of bishops, the shepherd's crook. The Heq intention is to gather together what is represented by the other scepter, called Neg-Ha-Ka, in the form of a staff, from which the three aspects of being streams in three waves. The Heq and the Neb-Ha-Ka are also carried by Osiris in his aspect of destiny. In this symbology, the position of the scepter-bearing hands must be carefully observed. They may be crossed at the wrists, which signifies death, as opposed by the two fists, which signifies judgment. The double crossing of the hands and then of the scepters always indicates resurrection, either for this life or for a higher life following earthly existence. As principles of renewal par excellence, Osiris is said to be born in his months as the moons, to appear at the monthly festival to be pure for the festival of the new moon. Barley is threshed for him, wheat that is spelt is reaped for him, and offerings of it are made at his monthly festivals and again at his semi-monthly festivals as his father. Geb commanded, he is told, arise, O king, for thou hast not died. Osiris is also the annual renewal of all vegetation, symbolized by efficiency upon which seed is sown and made to germinate. Osiris is likewise the new water, the fertilization of the Nile River, the flood after the soul's desiccation. At the same time, he is the Ka of Horus, his son. Horus has come, he has counted, and has recognized thee. He has smitten Seth for thee, he has bound him. Thou art his Ka. Horus has driven off Seth from thee. Thou art great, greater than thy enemy who swims bearing thee, who supports one greater than he who is in thee. Horus has come. He counts, that is, he recognizes his father in thee. Thou art the renewal one in the name of fresh water. Osiris himself is reborn as germ, symbolized by the seed emerging from the base of his throne and blooming into a lotus flower, which supports the four sons of Horus. Horus, the four protectors of man's four essential organic functions. So I'm going to share another figure here, figure 45, in front of Isis and Nephilim. Osiris bearing the Heq and the Neb-Ha is seated on the throne position, I should say pose, on a pond from which germinated a seed that has bloomed into a lotus flower bearing the four sons of Horus. The vulture body is replaced by an eye. So this is it here. The 8 principles of incarnation. Number 1, the polarization of the one, that is absolute consciousness. the pharaonic nun, makes for the appearance that is an existence of a relation between the positive and the negative, that is, i.e., between two absolute complements. This defines the corporal pharaonic concept, nun and tum, N-U-N and T-U-M. This principle of polarization, number two, is this principle of polarization, that is division, continues. Everything that exists, meaning everything that appears as body and that can be perceived by the senses, everything in a relationship between two complements, for example, acid and alkaline, equals salt. Positive, negative equals energized effect or neutral body, or yang and yin make for objective life. Number three, existence includes a corporate genesis going from the origin to man. B, a psycho-spiritual genesis starting with the man, the final corporate term, and with the vital reversal, which is the beginning of return. Number four, in the work of Genesis, the end of corporization, that is, deaths and reincarnations, corresponds to the subsidization of the corporeal, the fixed salt of the earth. One text phrases it that which has communicated its fixity to the volatile. This state represents a dissolving fixity and becomes energetically radiant. It brings to mind the marrow in the vegetable. This fixed volatile being oriented, which means that it is born by a specific seed, especially reincarnation, reincarnates specifically. Number five, consciousness has two aspects. One is to innateness in form, the other is self-recognition due to the cerebral cortex. These two aspects are complementary to each other and reunite at the end of Genesis. They again make for absolute and immortal consciousness. Number six, consciousness of form is personal consciousness, specifically characteristics of the form. It is transmitted by means of personal reincarnation with the aid of a generic seed, but not through this seed. Mental consciousness is the means of choice and makes psycho-spiritual genesis possible. So it's a decision you make to be conscious, you see. Number seven, death is the separation of the subtile from the corporeal. Each of these carries one of the complements which together make for absolute consciousness, similar to the consciousness of origin before the original separation. Number eight, definite rebirth or resurrection is absolute complementation, that is a ba, B-A, is the volatile, the subtype, and ka is the energetic fixity, which is the magnet for ba. The text says that the ba must recover its ka. Some of these principles demand clarification. The consciousness here discussed must be distinguished from psychological consciousness, which is essentially mental and of the moment, retained by the two permanent aspects of the individual. Consciousness, such as we understand it here, is an inscription left by profoundly experienced events in the course of earthly life. That consciousness is inscribed in what is most permanent. It is also determines the particular affinity with the new specification, and is owing to such affinity that the new junction can be made between states which have become separated and can be rejoined beyond time and space. It is also necessary to bear in mind what is said concerning mutation. That is, mutations at the constitute elements separate to form a new conjunction. There is a moment when the neters, the cosmic emanations conforming to the laws of harmony, can intervene in order to create a new being. Creation is here merely a matter of speaking, but at least this intervention offers the opportunity for a sure revolution. This is what is symbolized by Seth's dismemberment of Osiris and by the long litanies uttered in order to beseech the neters to reconstitute him every evening when Ra settles into Amindi. The particular leader of each temple is considered to undergo the passions of Osiris. Then during the rising of Ra, the celibate, the king, that is, performs the rite of the daily divine cult. He offers incense, purifications with 4 red vases and 4 white vases, once towards each cardinal point, sacred unguents, etc., which serves to recall the renewal, the reconstitution of the dismembered body, and is resurrected by day. This can occur only by the grace of the mysterious eye of Horus, which is counted down, that is analyzed by the offerings of oil, incense, water, or food. The sacrifice of the eye of Horus serves as a daily reminder of rebirth. The eye of Horus, wrestled by Seth and recovered through the sacrifice of Sethim, animals whose nature is specified by the offerings. The strange identification of the eye of Horus, which specifies offerings that have many shades of meaning, signifies nothing other than the praise of the soul's return to existence. The pyramid texts express this in the following. The subtle part which separates from the individual at death naturally seeks its supporting point in order to take form again. But if it has retained a regret or a violent desire, this will cause it to seek any substance whatsoever, psychic in particular, far from a living being, in order to return to a ghost-like shadow existence. Real personal reincarnation can only be achieved by the reunion of Ba with his Ka, as the text confirms. For this reason, the tomb is called House of the Ka, and the priests in charge of it, priests of the Ka. All food offerings and purifications are made to the Ka of the deceased. It is also said that the Ka, that the Kas, K-A-S, are the forces of life, the nutriments, and that is the Ka, which engenders the sun. At the same time that Karnimi models the royal infinite on his potter's wheel. He also fashions his Ka, and the Ka awaits birth during the particular partition from Mat and Mit Mio. Mat in the boat, mother of the Amenmius III. The Ka follows the officiating king in the temple, and during the Set Sed festival of renewal. Here it is the divine Ka, bearer of the king's horse name, held between 2 upraised arms, symbol of the Ka, and also the name of the bull Ka. It is said that as long as a man is master of Ka and goes with his Ka, he's alive. In order to summon his rebirth, therefore, it is said to the dead Osiris, quote, "Purify thyself, Eunice. Open thy mouth by means of the eye of Horus. Invoke thy Ka, O-S-I-R, Osir, that he may protect thee from all wrath of the dead." The Ka of transformation has evolutionary character. It is more corporate with human beings close to the earth and becomes more spiritual. One might say even energetic, in proportion to the individual's association of his earthly attachments. The organic seed, that is human sperm and ovule, is evidently necessary for the return to human form. It is here that the specific affinity comes into play in the choice of gender and millennial. This is a difference from the generic continuality of the same bloodlines and from a proliferation through conceptions and birth, which transmits only physical, mental, and emotional qualities, characteristics of a certain family. And yet it is within such a lineage that the personal individual reincarnates and inserts itself. This is why, according to tradition, ancient people always sought burial in their own native land. The organic seminal lineage being considered most favorable to the reincarnation of the same individual. This is also the reason for the ancestry cult in China, for example, as well as in Egypt. On the east wall of the entrance of the corridor to the Pyramid of Pepi, P-E-P-I, 2, Nefer Ka-Re is said, "Do not travel on those western waterways. Those who travel thereon do not come towards Ra. Walk, O thy Pepi Nefer Ka-Re, upon these eastern waterways among the followers of Ra, of the sublime arm, who is in the east." These words open the door to the royal path, also called the direct way. It is the mysterious story of the resurrection of being without passing through lives and reincarnations, mysteriously because its genesis is invisible, although spiritually commanded by the same laws. Being is created as Tum. It is liberated from earth as Horus. It is purified by spirit and emanated with the Horadian fire. It has assimilated all the qualities within an hour, whereas on the western path, it is necessary to pass through all earthly sufferings, we call the Osirian pashes. The inscriptions covering the walls of the pyramids chambers are concerned with the enumeration of these phrases, accidents, or acquisitions. Only their qualities and not their forms are specified. Here are several excerpts from the text on the east wall of the antechamber leading to the Serdab, S-E-R-D-A-B. The latter contains the statue of the king's double, gazing towards the sarcophagus chamber. The orientation of the walls on which the texts are inscribed has its importance. These east wall inscriptions thus face the direction of the sun's rising for terrestrial man. Here we find enumerated that Yunus has undergone and acquired during his human lifetime up to the hour of culmination at midday. The sky is overcast, the stars are darkened, that is their eclipse. The celestial expanse quiver, the bones of Aker, A-K-E-R, the earth god, tremble. The Nam are still. When they have seen Yunus appearing as a soul, that is Ba, as a Neter who lives within them, his fathers, and feeds upon within his mothers. And it is Yunus, the master of wisdom. Several correlations are to be drawn. The allusion, for instance, to the darkness and earth trembles that mark the apparitions of the deceased king as soul is reminiscent of the account of the Gospels of Matthew relating to Christ's death. Indeed, this does not refer to an ordinary man, but to the king, meaning the Horadian or direct path. Though not suffering the avatars of the body, human nature must be within Yunus in order to give him existence. And it is useful to stress here that this allegedly human king is himself called Yunus, a glip, which means existence. The king is compared to a Neter, or a principle. He is thought to have expanded his consciousness through his fathers and mothers by means of which he nourished himself for his spiritual genesis. Then he becomes master of wisdom. The glory of Yunus is in the sky. His power is in the horizon like that of his father Tum, who begat him. The castes, K-A-S, of Yunus are behind him. His virtues are before him. His Neters are upon him. His Urea are on the crown of his head. The king is identified with Atom, which is to say he is virtually Atom as going to enter directly into the path of regeneration. It is then said Yunus has his castes behind him, his virtues in front of him. The virtues, that is, are determined by these symbols of Neith, N-E-I-T-H, the goddess of weaving and of intelligent acquiring during the course of existence. The Neters are above him, and his Uridiate protect him. His Ba and his Ka are with him, but not as yet unified. Yunus is the wild-hearted bull of the sky who lives in or with the becoming of every Neter, existing on their works, when they come with their bodies full of magic through the action of celestial fire. Yunus is the bull of heaven, the dating fire of heaven, once enriched with each Neter Razan Dutar and hence with their supernatural power, Eunice can reunite his spirits. This signifies transfiguration, light, splendor, all of which is comparable to the light emerging from the shadows. Eunice is the well-provided one who assembles his spirits. Eunice has appeared as this great one, master of those who exercise their functions. Eunice sits with his back that is turned to the earth, and it's Eunice also who will give judgment together with he whose name is hidden on that day of sacrificing the elder one, that is the former Eunice. To sacrifice the elder one means to slay the form of that Eunice who has lived, that is the elder, here referring to the king's former state, after having judged himself with his whose name is hidden, or the unknowable one. Eunice sacrificed himself in order to tie off the ka, which bears all the qualities the previous lives on the indirect path have given him. There follows a long passage where words are used without determinatives, leaving the door open to the several interpretations, each expressing demands detailing analysis and contains a Kabbalist meaning. Actually, Eunice goes directly from his origins to his perfection, but there is a passage involved, namely a unique one, time action, that brings together everything a earthly king, Eunice, would humanly have undergone and transcend. And this is what is enumerated. In other words, the king must sacrifice all his previous attachments so that his ba is no longer is attracted towards a terrestrial ka, demanding his reincarnation. Eunice is here said to be the master of messages gathered for him by the chief of writings, messages which are in truth the accounts and inscriptions made during the course of the previous life. But it is only after the intricate destruction of all tangible forms that Eunice will be identified with the great scepter Sahim, that is, of the power, which will assure him the mastery of the Sahim, the powers. At that time, he will receive the parchment of divine, that is the secret scroll from Orion, and then Eunice has appeared again in the heavens. He is crowned as Lord of the horizon. He is reckoned up the dorsal vertebrae of the spinal cord, that is the column of fire and of life. He has seized possession of the hatids, of the neters. He has sustained himself on the red crown. He has swallowed the green one, meaning all that is vegetable. Eunice feeds himself on the unity, the conjunction that makes four, of the sages. He is satisfied, that is, more exactly, subliminal, which living on the Hattas, Hatys, and their magical power. The conclusion of its enigmatic text is summoned by the following phrase: the signatures of Eunice do not weaken in his hand, that is, they are in his possession, for he has swallowed the wisdom or knowledge of every neter. In some way, it is humanity of Horus that evoked here, and accordingly it can be said that the king is sustained, that is, nourished on human nature, and that he lives on the principles of neters, thanks to which he will become an accomplished one and return to his source of origin. After the description of the east wall, expressing it entirely the principle of man becoming and his sacrifices, the sun's culmination is reached. This is the hour of justice, of equilibrium, and of the passage towards the other world, as the transition of yang to yin, as the Chinese phrase it. This critical moment can be put in parallel with the judgment of the crucified Lord Christ, when he separates the thief who confesses his faults and his faith from the other thief who blasphemes. Thus, on the south wall of this same chamber, Eunice appears as Horus, heir of his father, that is written with the sign of a femur, F-E-M-U-R. He is the fourth of these offering barriers through the thigh bone descent from their fathers, and he hopes that he will be justified. Eunice has been judged by Tifin and Tefnon, and Shu was a witness for his limbs to be reunited. Eunice comes out on this day in the true form of a living spirit. Eunice interrupts the fight and quells the revolt. Eunice goes forth with Mat, that is his truth or consciousness. He leads her way in front of him. Then one after another, the Negers are entreated not to ignore the king so that he may recognize each one of them. Next, he ascends to the heights of heaven where he is raised up by Ra. Saying Eunice is accomplished with Ka, Eunice lives together with his Ka. Lastly, the king rising to heaven leaves the earth, far from wife and rank. Eunice washes himself when Ra appears. Divine great in it shines forth Seth of Amos. The separator is high at the head of the sanctuary of the south. Eunice is liberated from the humanity that is in his limbs. This Eunice seizes the great white crown from the hand of the two divine Inuts. Isis nurses him, Nephilim suckles him. Horus takes him in his fingers, eventually he's eternally living. He purifies this Eunice in the jackal, that is the jackal lake. He delivers the Ka of Eunice in the lake of Neverworld. He destroys the human flesh of the Ka of the Eunice for his body of resurrection by means of what is on Ra's arm. The two lands shine forth, and the face of the Negers radiate while he, that is Horus, leads the Ka of this Eunice and his own body of resurrection towards the great mansion. And then Eunice is in heaven, and he conducts those who are imperishable, symbolized by the circumpolar stars. Perfect is the Eunice in his perfections. He is no longer corruptible. Farmost is the Eunice in his preeminence, for his Ka has reached him. May Eunice be with you, O Neters. May you exist with Eunice, O Neters. May Eunice live with you, O Neters. May you live together with Eunice, O Neters. May Eunice love you, O Neters. You love him. The father of Eunice is Atum, and the king is delivered to these perfect, wise, and imperishable Neters. In this country to which Eunice is going, he will know neither hunger nor thirst throughout eternity. God appeared to Eunice, and Eunice is seated upon the great throne at the side of the greater God. Next, on the west wall, facing the setting sun, all is accomplished, and terrestrial life has been survived. Here on existence is glorified. Hail to thee, O wise one! Geth has created thee. The divine in it has bore thee. Hor is subliminal, that is through his father. Atum is spiritualized through his years, that is the cycles of the time. And the Neters of the east and of the west are subliminal through the great interior transformation produced by the divine birth. Then in the image of the resurrection of Osiris, Eunice raises himself up on his side, and then he is shining like a star, and he sets truth in the place of error. Then there follows the apotheosis of the king. It is Eunice who is at the head of the cause, who unites hearts in the face of the supreme sage, bearer of the divine scroll, the knower of wisdom, at the right hand of Ra. Eunice comes towards his throne, which dominates the cause. Eunice unites the hearts in the face of supreme wisdom. Eunice becomes like the knower of wisdom, that is the bearer of the divine scroll, who is at the right of Ra. Eunice is liberated by and with himself. Eunice says what is in the heart of the great one at the feast of weaving, that is, of creation. It is Eunice, the knower of wisdom, who is at the right of Ra. One time, Eunice is before the divine throne. One time, he goes towards the divine throne. And in one time, he is definitely at the right Ra, the one. There is here a remarkable similarity to the words of the Christus passion, when after definite unification, the Lord Christ, purely spiritual and become untouchable for women or for woman, is then said to be risen and seated at the right of the Father. Two paths, two ways to a single goal, two ways that distinguish those who have renounced from those who remain subject to desire or must still taste the joys and sorrows of this life. And is this religion? No, it is more than faith. For some, it is the knowledge of the divine world ordering word, and this knowledge is also the sacred science. For others, it is incredible order. Believers or doubters, they suffer the consequences of all the causes generated by their actions. This is the indirect road. The most logical, sure, and comforting of laws is leaves each one to judge for himself what he is, what he understands, what are his hopes. The path of Osiris is not imposed by anyone. It is the reality of nature that dictates. From the moment a man is born on earth, he enters a cycle he cannot escape until the cause of disharmony, which he himself created, having been exhausted. To believe or not to believe is one and the same for the natural course of Osiris' ways. Be good, be just, be charitable, and the sooner you will reap illumination. Be evil, be cruel, be egotistic. Whether you believe or not, you will pay. You say, I don't remember my past lives. Your illumination, if you have opened to it, your sufferings, if you have generated them, are those, not recollections. Every human life is necessarily a consequence involving either compensation or payment, but it's also cause for a sequel cause of the continuation of slavery or cause of liberation by consciously breaking the chains. This breakthrough is a joyous reunion, which is neither flight nor fear, but an irresistible summons towards the light. And when this call makes itself heard, the temple doors open of their own accord. Horus, Christ's divine unction and fine, begins to do its work. This is what has been said by the sages of all times, those who have beheld the certainty of the simplest of truths. Egypt maintained itself for millennia because the way of renewal held its people on a righteous track. Certain that death is but change in life continuality. The temple reserved the direct path for the illuminate, the path which was later, and with all the consequences this entailed openly taught by Christianity. With that, that is the conclusion of chapter 9 of the book here of Sacred Science. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your attendance, and hopefully this will encourage your hearts to continue to pursue the deeper things of the day we live in. The opportunity is now, folks. It really is. The opportunity is here on the internet. These works are here. There's no excuse if you truly want to seek truth, unless you desire not to. That's your choice. You have free will. So thank you for being here again. Like I said, reading of the Sacred Science in chapter 9, called The Two Paths of Liberation, by Rene Schwaller de Lubicz. Have a good day, and thank you for listening. Take care.